The most powerful office in the world has claimed lives in ways you'd never expect. 4 presidents murdered in office, others destroyed by primitive medicine, stress that aged them decades in years, and illnesses their own doctors couldn't understand. Some died from decisions made in a single moment. Others were killed slowly by the weight of the job itself. Nearly 1 in 5 American presidents didn't make it out alive on natural terms. This isn't a story about politics. It's about power meeting mortality in the most brutal ways possible. And by the end, you'll see a pattern that makes the presidency look less like an honor and more like a death sentence in slow motion. Let's count them all. Part 1. The Founding Fathers. Death before modern medicine. George Washington, 1789 to 1797. Died December 14, 1799, age 67. The man who could have been king died choking in his own bed. Washington caught a throat infection after riding through freezing rain on his Virginia estate. His doctors did what medicine demanded in 1799. They drained nearly half his blood in less than 24 hours. It's called bloodletting, and it killed him. The irony? Washington survived wars, betrayals, and the birth of a nation, only to be murdered by the medicine meant to save him. The father of the country never stood a chance against his own physicians. John Adams, 1797 to 1801. Died July 4, 1826, age 90.
Adams outlived almost everyone from his generation. Heart failure finally took him at 90, the same day as Thomas Jefferson, exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence.
The man spent his final years bitter, isolated, convinced history would forget him. He was wrong, but he never knew it. Thomas Jefferson, 1801 to 1809. Died July 4, 1826, age 83. Hours before Adams died, Jefferson passed away at Monticello. Kidney disease, infections, possibly prostate issues, his body had been failing for years. The man who wrote "All men are created equal" died nearly bankrupt, haunted by debts and contradictions he never resolved. 2 founding fathers, same day, same anniversary. Coincidence doesn't even begin to cover it. James Madison, 1809 to 1817. Died June 28, 1836, age 85. Madison lasted decades past his presidency, dying quietly of heart failure. He was frail for years, weighing barely 100 pounds at the end. The architect of the Constitution faded away in silence, the last founding father to go. James Monroe, 1817 to 1825. Died July 4, 1831, age 73. Monroe became the 3rd president to die on the 4th of July. Heart failure and tuberculosis finished him. He died broke, begging Congress for money he believed the government owed him. 3 presidents, same holiday. At some point, it stops feeling like coincidence.
Part 2. The 19th Century. Illness, Ego, and Fatal Mistakes. John Quincy Adams, 1825 to 1829. Died February 23, 1848, age 80. Adams didn't die as president. He died in Congress after returning as a representative. He collapsed on the House floor after suffering a stroke. 2 days later, he was gone. The only president to die at work, in a job he took after leaving the presidency. Andrew Jackson, 1829 to 1837. Died June 8, 1845, age 78. Jackson survived multiple duels, assassination attempts, and chronic pain from bullets lodged in his body. What killed him? Heart failure and tuberculosis, illnesses that had been slowly destroying him for decades. Jackson spent his life daring death to take him. It finally did. Martin Van Buren, 1837 to 1841. Died July 24, 1862, age 79. Asthma and heart failure. Quiet, uneventful. Van Buren lived long enough to see the Civil War begin. He supported the Union. Then he died, largely forgotten. William Henry Harrison, 1841, president for 31 days. Harrison gave the longest inauguration speech in history, 2 hours, in freezing rain, no coat. A month later, he was dead. The official cause? Pneumonia and typhoid, but historians now believe it was contaminated water from the White House sewage system. The shortest presidency in American history, killed by the White House itself. John Tyler, 1841 to 1845. Died January 18, 1862, age 71. Tyler died of a stroke just days before his inauguration, not as president, but as a Confederate congressman. He's the only president to die as an enemy of the United States. History didn't mourn him. James K. Polk, 1845 to 1849. Died June 15, 1849, age 53. Polk worked himself to death, literally. He left office exhausted, aged far beyond his years. Cholera killed him 3 months later. He promised to serve 1 term and achieve everything. He did, and it destroyed him. Zachary Taylor, 1849 to 1850. Died July 9, 1850, age 65. Taylor ate cherries and drank milk at a July 4th celebration. 5 days later, he was dead. Doctors called it cholera. Some believed he was poisoned. In 1991, they exhumed his body to test for arsenic. The results? Inconclusive. The most powerful man in America, undone by fruit and milk. Millard Fillmore, 1850 to 1853. Died March 8, 1974, age 74. Fillmore suffered a stroke and died quietly at home. Unremarkable in death as in presidency. Franklin Pierce, 1853 to 1857. Died October 8, 1869, age 64. Pierce drank himself to death, cirrhosis of the liver. He watched his son die in a train accident weeks before his inauguration. He never recovered. The presidency didn't kill Pierce. Grief and alcohol did. James Buchanan, 1857 to 1861. Died June 1, 1868, age 77. Respiratory failure. Buchanan spent his final years defending his presidency as the Union collapsed. No one listened. Abraham Lincoln, 1861 to 1865. Died April 15, 1865, age 56. Cause? Assassination. John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln in the back of the head at Ford's Theater. Lincoln died the next morning, never regaining consciousness. The Civil War was over, the Union was saved, and Lincoln never saw it hold again. The first president murdered for doing his job. Andrew Johnson, 1865 to 1869. Died July 31, 1875, age 66. Johnson suffered multiple strokes. The final one killed him while visiting family. He died despised, nearly impeached, erased by history. Ulysses S. Grant, 1869 to 1877. Died July 23, 1885, age 63. Grant died of throat cancer, likely caused by decades of cigar smoking. Bankrupt and dying, he raced to finish his memoirs to provide for his family. He completed them days before his death. The war hero died penniless, writing to survive. Rutherford B. Hayes, 1877 to 1881. Died January 17, 1893, age 70. Heart attack. Hayes died quietly at home, widely respected. James A. Garfield, 1881-1881. President for 200 days. Cause? Assassination. Charles Guiteau shot Garfield in a train station. The bullet didn't kill him. Doctors did. They spent months digging through Garfield's body with unwashed hands, searching for the bullet. Infection ravaged him. Alexander Graham Bell even invented a metal detector to try to find it. It failed. Garfield died 79 days after being shot, not from the wound, but from his doctors. He survived the bullet. He didn't survive the treatment. Chester Arthur A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885. Died November 18, 1886, age 57. Kidney disease. Arthur hid his illness throughout his presidency. He died a year after leaving office, largely forgotten. Grover Cleveland, 1885 to 1889, 1893 to 1897. Died July 24, 1908, age 71. Heart attack and kidney failure. Cleveland died at home, the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Benjamin Harrison, 1889 to 1893. Died March 13, 1901, age 67. Pneumonia. Harrison caught a cold that turned fatal. Medicine still couldn't save presidents from infections. Part 3. The 20th Century. Stress, Secrets, and Silent Killers. William McKinley, 1897 to 1901. Died September 14, 1901, age 58. Cause: assassination. Leon Zalgoff shot McKinley at point-blank range during a public event. Doctors operated by the light of the sun because the electric lights weren't working. They couldn't find the bullet. Gangrene set in. McKinley died 8 days later. The 3rd president killed in office. The pattern was now undeniable. Theodore Roosevelt, 1901 to 1909. Died January 6, 1919, age 60. Roosevelt survived assassination attempts, tropical diseases, and African safaris. A blood clot in his sleep finally stopped him. Death had to wait until he was asleep. It was the only way. William Howard Taft, 1909 to 1913. Died March 8, 1930, age 72. Heart disease. Taft was massively overweight for most of his life. He died as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the job he actually wanted. Woodrow Wilson, 1913 to 1921. Died February 3, 1924, age 67. Wilson suffered a massive stroke in 1919 while still in office. His wife Edith essentially ran the presidency for over a year, hiding the severity of his condition. He died 3 years after leaving office, partially paralyzed. The presidency was secretly run by the First Lady. Almost no one knew. Warren Harding, 1921 to 1923. Died August 2, 1923, age 57.
Harding died suddenly in a San Francisco hotel room.
Heart attack officially. Rumors of poisoning swirled for decades. His wife refused an autopsy. The president died under suspicious circumstances, and no one was allowed to investigate. Calvin Coolidge, 1923 to 1929. Died January 5, 1933, age 60. Heart attack. Coolidge spent his final years in deep depression after his son died. He once said, when he died, the power and glory of the presidency went with him. Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933. Died October 20, 1964, age 90. Hoover outlived nearly everyone. Internal bleeding from cancer finally took him. He spent 31 years in retirement, longer than any president before him.
Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1933 to 1945. Died April 12, 1945, age 63. FDR died of a cerebral hemorrhage while sitting for a portrait. He had been president for 12 years, longer than anyone in history. The job had visibly aged him. Photos from his final months show a man barely holding on.
He died weeks before Nazi Germany surrendered. He guided the nation through the Depression and the war. He never saw the end. Harry S. Truman, 1945 to 1972. Died December 26, 1972, age 88. Organ failure. Truman lived nearly 20 years after leaving office, dying quietly in a Kansas City hospital. Dwight D. Eisenhower, 1953 to 1961. Died March 28, 1969, age 78. Heart failure. Eisenhower had suffered multiple heart attacks throughout his life. The war hero's heart finally gave out. John F. Kennedy, 1961 to 1963. Died November 22, 1963, age 46. Cause: assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy in Dallas. The president was pronounced dead 30 minutes later. Conspiracy theories still dominate the conversation 60 years later. The youngest elected president, dead before he turned 47. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1963 to 1969. Died January 22, 1973, age 64. Heart attack. Johnson had suffered from heart disease for years, exacerbated by stress, smoking, and the Vietnam War. He died 4 years after leaving office, one day before a peace agreement in Vietnam was announced. He spent his final years haunted by a war he couldn't end. Richard Nixon, 1969 to 1994. Died April 22, 1994, age 81. Stroke. Nixon spent 2 decades trying to rehabilitate his image after Watergate. He died respected by some, reviled by others. Gerald Ford, 1974 to 1977. Died December 26, 2006, age 93. Heart failure. Ford lived longer than any U.S. president, 93 years and 165 days. He died peacefully at home. Ronald Reagan, 1981 to 1989. Died June 5, 2004. Pneumonia, complicated by Alzheimer's disease. Reagan had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1994. He spent his final decade disappearing into memory loss. The great communicator lost the ability to speak. George H.W. Bush, 1989 to 1993. Died November 30, 2018, age 94. Vascular Parkinsonism. Bush died 7 months after his wife Barbara. He was the second longest-lived president in history. Part 4. Living Presidents and the Patterns. As of now, 5 presidents are still alive. Jimmy Carter, 100 years old, battling health issues but still here. Bill Clinton, heart disease but thriving post-presidency. George W. Bush, healthy and active. Barack Obama, youngest living president. Donald Trump, currently serving his 2nd term. Medicine has changed everything. Modern presidents have access to health care unimaginable even 50 years ago, but the job still extracts a toll. The pattern no one talks about. Let's zoom out. 8 presidents died in office. 4 were assassinated. 4 died of illness. 12 presidents died within 5 years of leaving office. The stress didn't stop when the job did. Nearly 25% of presidents died before age 60. The office aged them faster than time itself. The common killers? Heart disease, the silent destroyer of presidents. Stroke, a sudden, brutal killer, often hidden from the public. Infection. Before antibiotics, even minor illnesses were death sentences. Assassination. 4 presidents murdered, countless attempts on others. Stress, the invisible killer that claimed them all. For most of American history, becoming president was medically dangerous. Primitive health care, constant stress, public exposure, and the weight of impossible decisions destroyed men in real time. But something changed in the late 19th century. Modern presidents live longer. Eisenhower survived multiple heart attacks. Reagan survived an assassination attempt. Bush Sr. lived to 94. Medicine learned how to keep them alive. But at what cost? Presidents now live with Secret Service protection for life. They take daily medication for stress-related conditions. They carry the weight of decisions that haunt them decades later. Survival isn't the same as escape.
46 presidencies, 45 men. 8 died in office, 12 more within 5 years of leaving. Some were murdered, others were failed by primitive medicine. A few were destroyed by stress that turned their bodies against them. The most powerful job on earth has always come with a price. For over 200 years, the presidency didn't just shape history, it quietly shortened the lives of the men who held it. Which president's death shocked you the most? Let us know below.